Welcome to our meeting. I'm the chairman of Solidarité Internationale LGBTQI. It's a French organization who tried to mobilize the French population and the French government to support the LGBT movement in the world. And we are also trying to give some support to NGOs in different countries. We are organizing this meeting with ANKH. So I let Nicolas say a few words about ANKH.
Thank you, Robert. So ANKH, it's Arab Network for Knowledge about Human Rights, and it's an organization that has been established in 2018. And the aim is to support minorities in the Euro-Mediterranean area. And specifically, we've been working for 2 years with the LGBTQI plus community. So we're trying to help them like either to cope with the different troubles that might have depending on where they live. So some people are living in Arab countries, so they might have issues with like access to documentation, medication, the laws, housing, etc. And some people are living in exile, so we are also trying to support the people living in exile, refugees and asylum seekers. And we also have advocacy programs, so sometimes we need to make advocacy to help some people like having their story known or getting out of jail. So we've been helping a lot of people from Egypt, Tunisia, and also other countries like Yemen, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, trying to get a better life. And this is also one of the issues that we wanted to talk about today, of what's the situation in the countries and how we can support them from abroad.
So we are recording our meeting in order to put it on Facebook later. Till now, everybody speaks English and not everybody speaks French. So we will speak English. But Nicolas, for the recording, it's a little bit a problem because most French people may not speak English, but so let's go in English. So we want to ask Noor to tell us what is the situation of LGBT people in Egypt. And Noor, can you introduce you in a few words?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Robert, and thank you, ANKH, for giving me this opportunity to be part of this panel. My name is Noor Sultan. I am the executive director of Bedaya organization. Bedaya has been working on LGBT issues in Egypt since 2010. Mainly, we focus on 3 areas: the services, including legal intervention and health services, capacity building for activists and initiatives, and the third is advocacy, including documentation of violation in detention places and prisons. The situation in Egypt, in general, for those who doesn't know, homosexuality is not criminalized by the Egyptian Penal Code. But different laws has been used to arrest LGBT people. These laws, including law of combating prostitution and debauchery. And in this law, people usually face charges between 3 months up to 3 years. But we have documented some cases have been sentences to 6 years and sometimes up to 12 years. And other laws that has been used, and we have noticed this very recently in 2020 during the COVID situation and all the global situation is focusing on the health crisis, but it's still the Egyptian authority arresting people based on their activism or based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. So they start using the cybercrime law that has been passed in 2018. And in this law, we have some vague articles, and one of those articles is violating of family values. So usually women and LGBT people usually face these laws. And we notice also a change from regular courts to using economical court, which is another challenge for the lawyers who have been doing a lot of intervention to help LGBT people. What I want to mention also, the methods that the police using for arresting LGBT people, mainly it's online entrapment through dating applications and through social media also platforms. And this is also give an indicator that the police officers and the government is investing in giving some resources to those police officers to go online and catching people and tracking people. Other methods also used like random check from the street. And this is also something related to the general political situation in Egypt, where a lot of campaigns and surveillance campaigns against activists in general, political and human rights defenders. General checking up in the street, stopping people in the streets, searching their phones, and LGBT people are one of the groups that has been also a victim of this method of checking phones, checking their profiles, seeing some pictures of you, recognizing your identity, and then you find yourself is you are facing a case before the court. I mean, I would say that since the current regime took over in 2013, we documented at least 500 individuals has been arrested based on their sexual orientation and gender identity, which is so we notice an increase of the spike of arrests compared to 10 years during Mubarak regime. I wanted to mention that forced anal examination still exists as a method to prove the homosexuality of people and give it as evidence in court. We documented also different type of violation, verbal, physical, psychological, and also sexual assaults in detention places and prisons. Situation in general in detention places and prisons is very difficult for everyone, but for LGBT people, it could be the double of this type of suffering in detention places. Police officers and the inmates both are doing these type of violation. Inmates doing this violation by encouragement of the police officers, and police officers just ignoring doing anything. Also, lack of national anti-discrimination legislations. This is like providing constructive provide constructive protection for LGBT people against non-state violence. And also here I wanted to mention that the non-state violence, social violence has increased during the pandemic. During the pandemic time of COVID-19, and this is disclosed the weak legal structure in Egypt. I mean, dozens of LGBT community members reporting different type of violation by third party, and in this situation, usually LGBT people, they just decide to ignore these type of violation and not going to seek justice because there is no laws that protect them. Instead, sometimes in some cases, when they report violence by third party to the police, they got arrested themselves. I think this is in general, but I also wanted to mention that not only Egyptian citizens suffering from this situation, also foreigners who are visiting Egypt. In 2020, we documented at least 16% of the cases was foreigners, and the Egyptian state issued an executive order in 2016 to report any individual who are charged on debauchery, even if they are acquitted. So we documented also some cases of foreigners who faced the same situation of of Egyptian citizens, and they have been deported out of Egypt. I think this is in general, and back to you, Roper.
And how do you see some evolution in the past about this violence?
I think that if we want to compare it to the if we're speaking during Mubarak regime, violation used to happen. We have some cases, very famous cases of arrest and violation, and also using the online entrapment during Mubarak regime was also common, but was was early in 2001, 2002, and up to 2004. But then I would say that arrest rate has been decreased, but compared to like if we look to the current government, it's like, yes, the violence is increasing and the number of arrests is increasing.
You were saying that the situation of people in jail is very difficult, and we can understand this. But what about the trans people? Because 2 weeks ago, we organized a meeting about the support of LGBT people in jails. And the conclusion was that the worst situation was for trans people. I suppose it's the same in Egypt.
Yeah, I would say yes, because mainly the anti-prostitution law and cybercrime laws is used against gay men and transgender women, because the Egyptian system does not recognize trans women. They see them as feminine men. So usually they got treated like with double discrimination, because their appearance, their way of living, and also in detention places there is no places for trans people, so they admitted them to detention places for men, and also prisons for men, which is make it worse in terms of violation that they are facing in detention places and prisons.
So in such a difficult context, how can you act? How can you work as an NGO?
The situation is very challenging, but I think we usually look to the bright side, that there is a lot of small initiatives has been emerging to support and to raise awareness around to raise awareness around the LGBT issues. Also, I mean, LGBT activists in general, they have a lot of awareness around digital security, personal safety, and usually they implies these in their works and activities, so they can navigate the area where they can give support without jeopardizing their own security and safety.
But do you see some hope for the future? Do you see how can the situation improve?
I think yes. Oh, there is always hope, and we're always optimistic. That's why we're still doing this, like this type of work, and we're still like fighting. I would say that, as I mentioned, that when we started back then in 2010, there was only Bedaya, and then now there is at least 10 to 15 groups and organizations and small initiatives that's working on LGBT issues. There is also diversity in this, not only working in Cairo or Alexandria, the big cities, but also in small cities, including Upper Egypt, which is a very difficult situation there, but there is a small initiatives that they are working there. Also, networking and alliance that has been built through the years with mainstream civil society organization and human rights organizations. So building allies usually make things happen and bring the change. I would say a lot of things happen, change the situation. Maybe from some perspective, it's bad incidents, but from other perspective, it's bring the visibility to the issue. And here I mean focusing on what happened in Mashroua Layla conference in 2017, and then what happened with Sarah Hijazi. All these things made a huge visibility about the issue of LGBT, the situation of Malik al-Kashif also, and then the trans woman Farida Ramadan, who was being fired from her work. This has made also the Minister of Education to speak about her case publicly. So there is a lot of issues and debate and dialogue about the LGBT situation happening. A lot of wave of hate violence and hate speech happening, of course. But on the other side, we also, these dialogue bring people who are neutral to be an ally, and also bringing people from hating to the neutral situation. So this is like this type of dialogue and conversation usually bring the change. Yeah.
So there is some debate in the Egyptian society.
Of course, yes, especially on the social media, because younger generation, they have access to social media, a lot of debate happening there. As I said, there is also negative side, but also there is a positive.
And when you express on social media some positive opinion about LGBT
positive opinion,
people,
and we creating also allies from these conversation. Yeah.
And it's not a danger for somebody to express a positive opinion on LGBT people?
I mean, it could be dangerous because they could face similar situation and similar cases that LGBT person face. But at the same time, some people, I think, for example, what happened after the death of Sarah Hijazi made some people who are always afraid to speak, made them speak, because there is nothing to lose when there is a life has been lost. So there is
Hello.
a point that when you reach it, you need to speak. A lot of there is a lot of civil society organization, human rights organization spoke publicly and wrote a petition and wrote also a public statement, because the situation in Egypt in general for the freedom of opinion, freedom of speech, and also for the civil society, all of them, they facing very challenging situation with all the the situation that's happening with the laws and new laws that regulate NGO work, freezing acid, preventing a lot of or banning a lot of human rights defenders from travel. All these situations made people reach a point that this is time we should speak. We cannot keep silent anymore. So I think these points we already reached it. So people, they speak whatever happened, because even though you are silent, you could be arrested in Egypt. So speak to support other people. Yeah.
Yes, it's very important to have allies in this matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's turn to Shahinaz, who is living in France for many years, and so the situation described by Noor is a situation you knew when you were in Egypt, or
Yes.
your experience was
Yes.
similar?
Yes, actually, in Egypt, we know the first crackdown on gays. I watched. I mean, I witnessed a long time ago. It was the Queen boat. It was on,
Yeah.
on 2001. It's a very famous case.
Yeah.
And I had friends that were in this boat, and it was very hard for them. And you know, they published their names and their job in the newspaper in Egypt. So it was like, it was very, and everyone was against them, even the human rights NGOs in Egypt. It was, so it was really, it was a very bad, I mean, case for everyone. And then years after this, we had, I mean, between this 2001 and before the revolution, there was a lot of stuff happening, but it was, for example, for me, with some women, with some young women, we created like a group to support other lesbian women. And we know we had at least 3 women that had been put in psychiatry by their parents, so psychic hospital by their parents, because they were lesbians. And even they were kidnapped, and in the hospitals they were putting them under electricity stuff. And it was very violent for these young women, and we were trying to save them. We were like a group of 10 women. We were not an organization, we were just a group of 10 women trying to save this other girls. We were doing like crazy stuff, going to the hospital, trying to get in and saying that we are journalists, and we are also sometimes we say that we are students for psychology, and we want to have some cases about talk about the homosexuality, if it's a disease, and if the hospital is treating homosexuality here, conversion therapy. And but yeah, sometimes they were like, they know that we were not saying the truth. And one time the doctor in the hospital, he just he like shouting at us, and he like was like pushing us outside of the hospital. So it was really very hard for one of these women, because she was also Coptic, she was a Christian. And in the hospital, she had every day someone from the church to tell her how it's very bad to be a lesbian, and how she needs to get a man, to get married and have children. And they even bring to her some women that were lesbian, and then they are not lesbian anymore. And at the end, this girl, she stayed in the hospital like for 1 month or 2 months. And then at the end, she had to tell them that she's now good and she's not lesbian anymore, and she will go to get married and having children, so she could get out of the hospital. This was, I mean, this was happening a lot around us. And some girls and even boys, I mean, were getting married just to make their parents, just to say that we are not homosexual. I know also one guy at this time that his dad, when he know he's gay, he calls the police for him, and the police come to take him to the police station, and they were torturing him with everything. He has been raped by I don't know how we say this, like baton, like
a stick.
Yeah, with a stick. And he had a lot of health issue when he get out from the hospital. And we were like, when he from the police station, and we were trying to helping him on the psychological. And then he left Egypt some months after this experience. So at this time, in our surrounding, without any organization or anything, because as Noor said, there was no organizations that could help gays and lesbians at that time. So we were just trying to organize between us and trying to help each other. And the cases we know, because some cases we never know. I mean, some people maybe had a more serious issue, serious cases, but we didn't know, so we couldn't help. So we were just trying to organize between us. And then when the revolution came in 2011, we were thinking, it was an illusion. We were thinking that something will change, okay? But actually nothing changed. I mean, when we have Mubarak down, this is the system, the regime, the governing system. But the problem in Egypt is social. It's really the people mentality. And we have a very big block, I mean, a very big obstacle, really something that Egyptian mentality is really very attached to the religions, Christianity or Islam. And both of them are against homosexuality. So till now, it's a big issue for me. I think this is the big challenge. And I don't know if there will be any change without really having a very big change in the mentality for the Egyptian people to not to be attached to religion. And so in 2011, yes, some gays gays and lesbians were not out, but you can a bit visibility. They are not really coming and say, yes, we are gay, but they were, I mean, people know this person is gay or this person is lesbian, and they were, most of them, activists. So, I mean, participating in the revolutions, in all the stuff that were happening. But nothing changed in the mentality of Egyptians really at the time. And then in 2014, we have this Bab al-Bahr incident. Bab al-Bahr, this was a hammam, bus house in Cairo, very old. And there was, usually there's gay people in this place. It's a man hammam, you know. So there is a journalist called Mona Ra'i. She decided to go with the police and to arrest everyone because she was saying that this is a prostitution and they could get AIDS, HIV, and she was telling bullshit. And she was very happy that this happened. She was taking photos of this men arrested. And it was a very big, thing in Egypt at that time. And these people go to jail, and then at the end they were liberated. But it was it was very scary for all gays at the time in Cairo, in Egypt, because it's when we have crackdown on gays, on group of gays, we know that the police sometimes could go and get everyone, like it happened with Queen Boat. They didn't only take the people of the boat, but they were taking people around everywhere in Cairo, even people like any man who was like a bit effeminate, they were arresting him. So this was a very scary time for the gay people in Cairo and in Egypt in 2014. And then after this, we had this in 2017, the flag, so the concert for Mashrou' Layla, and this brave young people that were having the flag, the rainbow flag, and of course Sarah Ghazi, that she everyone know her case and how she was arrested after this. And she was in the prison for, I don't know if she stayed how many months or maybe months, I don't remember, but she was in the prison. She was subject to sexual assault and violence, and they were torturing her. And then when she was out, she could get to Canada, and we know the story that she put to her life last year in June, because she couldn't get over all what she lived. And Sarah Ghazi, what she did is really she made like a big debate in the Egyptian society. I'm still saying that it will. I mean, I don't know if this will change something, but the people who were debating really like, or maybe there is some hope is really the elite in Egypt. It's not, but yeah, like it's a few people. It's not really the big majority of Egyptian who are very attached to religion, who knows that homosexuality, you need, if someone is homosexual, so it have to be killed. So sometimes they said, okay, they can go to the hospital to get the conversion therapy. The people who are a bit having some mercy, but the majority is no, gay people should be killed. So, but yeah, Sarah made this debate, but between the elite, I mean, some people who maybe are also very, I mean, related even to Western language, the Western world. So this is why I'm not really very optimistic about this. But she made something. She give also visibility to lesbian, because in the LGBTQ community, even lesbians are not visible.
Yeah.
Lesbians were always invisible. They are not here. You can talk about gay men, but nothing. No one talk about lesbians. So Sarah, she was lesbian, and she said, "I'm lesbian." She wrote it even, and she gives us visibility to us. So this is why we decided this year that the day 13 June, when Sarah was put into her life, to make it like the lesbian and queer women day. So we were like a few women, and we decided to do this day for Sarah to be like for her memory and for her honor, and just to remember every year this. I think I don't know, but maybe I don't know if something would change in the future, but I hope. But I know that really religions are the big challenge that really every time it make me pessimist, really, because I don't know if this something could be changed one day.
But Egypt was always Muslim or Coptic.
Yes.
And the situation was not that bad 50 years ago in Egypt. So the religion changed. Don't you think so, regarding to LGBT people? It became worse, but it was not like that in history.
Yeah, I'm not sure 50 years ago how it was, because maybe it's maybe the generation of my parents, but I remember, for example, in my family, there's one gay. I know that he's gay because they were like mocking him and bullying him all the time, saying, "Yes, this man, he's very feminine. He's very, everyone was talking about this. He's in our family, in our big family, but I didn't, and then he left Egypt also because he couldn't stay." But I don't know how maybe people in this I mean gays and lesbians in this time, how they were living. I don't have any idea. I don't even know how it was. I think most women were married, for example, and having children, and they don't leave their sexuality, and men maybe the same. So I don't think it was good. I mean, now in this day, and since the 80s, we have the religion is very present in Egypt, families in Egypt. It's very Islam, because also most people are Muslims, so it's very present, and all this imam who talk about how we call this, but this is we have a very big Wahhabism ideas, Wahhabism. So this is the Wahhabism coming from Saudi, and it's very conservative, very, I don't know, I don't find the word to express how, this kind of thinking, the Wahhabism, but it's very present in Egyptian families and Egyptian in general, and it make it really very hard. It's I don't know. Anyway, I don't know, but I'm not really optimist till we have this religious I mean, very controlling Egyptians, really. Yeah.
And all these friends you knew who were arrested, what happened to them later? Did they leave Egypt or?
Yeah, I mean, some could leave Egypt, and some stayed. For example, one of the girls that was in the mental hospital, she's still in Egypt, but she was traumatized and she's very discreet. And I think even she couldn't leave her homosexuality. She's really very careful, and she's all the time this single woman, and that's it. Yes, so yeah. And some are married. and also some people do in Egypt also the cover marriage. I mean, one lesbian will get married with a gay, so they can. Yes, it's
Okay.
really very. I mean, I know many. I mean, and it works. It's very good. I think it's a very good idea because yeah.
Okay. Let's turn to Nada. So you arrived to France more recently, I think.
Yes, March last year. Yes.
And so your experience in Egypt is similar to what Noor or Shahinaz talk, I suppose.
It is similar in so many ways, but also different because I think for me, I kind of chose to live in the closet for a lot of years in my life. And it's something also that's very, we're familiar with in Egypt. We never actually come out. It kind of just is a more like a natural way of like, surviving and trying to experience our sexuality, but in a more discreet way. The situation in Egypt it's not just about being LGBTQI or identifying as a different gender, but it's also about being a female or a woman. And both somehow collide, because as a woman you have to live in a certain situation for the most of your life, and you have to be very protective of yourself, even in a heterosexual relationship. But yeah, it was like a lot of women in Egypt have been recently leaving their families' homes and like living alone, being independent. But it's also met with a lot of resistance by the society, because it's very conservative and very religious. And the danger here that it's also backed by the politics or the fascist police. And yeah, like when a woman lives alone, it's a bit tricky. You have to find like a lot of techniques to adapt every day to keep yourself safe. And of course, there are a lot of challenges in finding jobs or getting proper education, or even making like a healthy circle of friends, or traveling, or just existing in the street. So yes, it's very similar in so many ways. I feel like I was kind of lucky in terms of being always with a lot of groups of artists or activists or people of liberal views in Egypt. So that was my, I think, approach to protection. But of course, for so many years, I got into problems with the police, and I was arrested twice. And also by the influence of my family, it wasn't easy to get out of this situation. So I had to move a lot within Egypt and live in different places to be able to avoid any problems either with the family or with the police.
And did you have some difficulties to leave Egypt?
To leave Egypt?
To come to France?
Honestly, yes, of course, because it was like literally the beginning of the COVID, and no one knew what was happening. my situation happened very quickly. And just in 2 weeks, I realized that the police was after me, and I was living in Sinai, not in Cairo. So it was also difficult to leave Sinai itself to be able to get to Cairo without being seen by the police or the checkpoints or anyone from my family or acquaintances. And of course, because it was so quick, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to anyone. I left my cats with some friends, and I didn't tell them what was happening. I just told them I had to leave. I didn't talk to anyone from my family. I didn't see anyone. I was trying to hide all the time until I got to the airport. At the airport, it was like really terrifying because I know that they could have any kind of information about me, and they could, I don't know, prevent me from traveling. But thankfully, it went very smooth because I think they were also very busy with the COVID situation. A lot of people leaving Egypt or returning to Egypt. But honestly, I couldn't have done it without the help of my friends, either inside the country who kind of like offered some financial support without even knowing the story behind it, or ANKH organization also helped me a lot here in France by like arranging the tickets and where to stay and how to get to France and what to do when we arrive in Paris in the airport. But yeah, it was like a very surreal experience because also with the COVID, I didn't have any news. I didn't know what was happening in the world. Everything was closing. So I didn't even know whether I was gonna be able to get into France or not. And which was also a very intense experience because yeah, this is one of the situations when, like, I remember me thinking back in Egypt we're discriminated against because of our sexuality or gender identity, and then once the fight is still the same, but it's a different kind and who doesn't speak French. So even until now, I find it very common to fight, like to get racism from police officers or people here. There are a lot of how do you say it, like implicit racism in the way that people talk about.
Nada nous a quittés brutalement.
Yeah, I think, oui, elle a déconnecté. Yeah. Mais je pense que c'était important ce qu'elle disait tout à l'heure, en fait, parce que si vous me permettez, je peux continuer juste le temps qu'elle arrive. I can continue maybe.
Yeah, but I want to say a few words to Yasmin who joined
us.
Oh
yeah, sorry, I didn't see it. Okay.
Bonjour, je ne sais pas si vous êtes à l'aise en anglais. On a commencé en anglais. Vous comprenez l'anglais?
Je parle les deux langues en fait, merci. Merci beaucoup.
OK. Et si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez lever la main ou bien les poser dans le chat.
Oui, bien sûr, merci.
OK. Je vois que Nada est revenue. Mais est-ce qu'elle a...
Oui, elle est là, je pense.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You came back.
Yeah, so I was saying that coming to live in France in exile has made me realize like how
La connexion est mauvaise là.
Oui, heureusement. J'espère qu'elle va pouvoir revenir.
Bon, en attendant que Shahinaz, I suppose you have many friends who left Egypt and came to France. What are their experience becoming to France? Because we wanted to talk also about the difficulty to settle in France when you come when you come to as a refugee or otherwise.
Yes, I hope if Nada also can, Nada, if you can come, but you can continue. But yes, it's I think there is, as Nada was saying, there's some implicit racism or sometimes homophobic. I mean, in the administration here in France, it's covered, but it's happening, and it's unfortunately it's happening. It's sad to say that Nada's back. Maybe she can continue to tell about.
Okay. Yeah, it's just realizing that like here, yes, these kind of discriminations are not backed by politics or the police, but it's faced on a daily basis by the society here or by the administration, where like as a refugee, all of us have to spend a lot of time. Almost the first 2 years of our lives in France are just basically perfect geo visits every day. But yes, and one of the things that I find very challenging here is also integration into society, because basically, like when you come to a country like France, even if you speak the language, there's no actual plan or there's no actual approach towards how you get integrated inside the society here or inside the culture. And of course, when you try to do that, you are faced by a lot of homophobic or racist remarks on a daily basis. And as a person who doesn't speak French, I find it also like, for me, it kind of gets me triggered knowing that someone is speaking in a discriminatory way, but you can't like defend yourself in that language. It's it gets you really angry at some point, and there's so many points to it. Like even now that people have the status as refugees here, being identified as almost as French citizens even here. It's really difficult to find jobs. It's difficult to create a community within this culture, because there's a huge sense of individuality, and yes, it's a different culture than ours, and also even the integration within the queer community here in France is very difficult as well, because it feels like the fights are too different, you know. We are on two different fronts and we can't meet somewhere in the middle. The queer communities here are not intersectional. They're you don't see a lot of Black or Arab representation in it, and it doesn't feel like you can find your place in it as a queer person.
Yes, it's important to explain that to the French LGBT community, to be more welcoming to foreigners, and it's part of what we try to do. I wanted to ask Noor, what can NGOs like us in France do to help LGBT people in Egypt?
Thank you, Robert. I think there is different ways to support LGBT individuals in Egypt and an organization that working in Egypt. Through, of course, first I would say keeping communication and consultation with LGBT organizations that working or LGBT activists, so that's navigating the situation and giving a space for dialogue and conversation, that if this is action is safe for people who's living in Egypt, or it is will be some kind of a risky to jeopardize their security, etc. But keeping communication and consultation is very important. I think also second, raising the voice and condemning what is happening to LGBT individuals in Egypt. Of course, this is based on consultation, because some cases it's very visible and in the media. So in this case, usually condemning is important, and raising the voice about the situation and raising the visibility of the situation of LGBT people in Egypt is important. But some other cases, it's not that visible and vocal. Making it visible, it could affect the case in prison or in detention, and sometimes it's support to push the case and help the people to get out. So always conversation and consultation with raising the voice, it's important. I think also pushing with the French government to include in their bilateral conversation with the Egyptian authority that it's important to end the arrest and prosecution of LGBT individuals based on laws, the prostitution laws or cybercrime laws. Also to ensure accountability system of detention places and prisons with a clear reporting system and mechanism for abuse. Stopping the annual examinations, and also guarantee a proper conditions for trans individuals in detention places and prisons. I think those are very important points, 4 points to push with the French government to bring it up with the Egyptian government.
Okay, it's what we are trying to do, but
yeah.
we don't have a lot of resources to do that, human resources and financial resources, but I understand that all this can be helpful for you. I think you can also help us because we are in contact with NGOs like yours, living in different situations. Each country has a different situation, but I think the exchange of ideas between you and other NGOs living in different countries, and now I'm thinking of Senegal, which also a Muslim country, and there is a lot of attacks against LGBT people in the past, the recent period, and I think the way you can survive in this environment, the way you can work with allies, I think you can help people in Senegal or in other Muslim country, or even there are some Christian countries that are very homophobic also, and this way you are dealing with the situation can give ideas to people, to NGOs in other countries. So this is something we are trying to do. To have
that's
this.
I think this would be a great things to do, where providing a platform for conversation with other organizations in different contexts is very important, to have like this exchange of information and exchange of tactics and techniques that we use in our activism. I think this is a very important thing. Yeah.
But my association, Solidarité Internationale LGBTQI, is mostly working with Francophone countries. And language is a barrier for people in francophone countries who don't speak English. But we will try to improve this relation and to include you in our exchange. We are approaching the end of our meeting. Shahinaz, you want to add something?
I don't know, but yeah, I want to say that I think we will continue to work together. I mean, all the LGBT everywhere, all the ONG people who care about LGBT allies, and maybe, yeah, I'm pessimist, but maybe one day we can go Pride in Cairo or in Khartoum or or I don't know, yeah. Thank you.
But I think it's in a lot of countries the situation is very bad, but we need to work together. We are weak. We are confronted to very strong homophobic forces. But
yes.
So we need to work together to exchange ideas and to support each other. And I'm an old activist, LGBT activist, and I can tell you when I was 20, the situation in France was completely different. It was not as bad as the Egyptian situation, of course, but in my life, I saw the situation changing. And so I hope it will change everywhere. But I know also that we can have bad change. I mean, we can also have periods where the situation become worse, including in France. So, but this is another reason to work together.
Yes.
I saw that Yasmin raised her hand.
Yes. I have a question. Actually, I would like to hear multiple opinions of everyone, if it's possible, of course. I'm an Egyptian woman living in Egypt right now. And it has been raised to my knowledge that France is taking a step towards intersectionality. For instance, now in France, we can find homosexual imams, for example, Muslim imams. And so I have my own opinion on that. That could be a little bit problematic because I can see the connection between this religion and the situation, especially that we are facing in our country because of this same ideology. What do you think of this step that France has taken? Obviously, there are a lot of opinions, but yeah.
Okay. I don't know, Robert, do you want to answer? Yeah, or I can also, but first you can go.
Yeah, go on, Shahinaz.
Okay, I know what you are talking about, but it's not France. It's some people who they are homosexual or gays, and they are imams. They decide to be, and it's not only in France. There is in the United States and in South Africa. So it's I mean, it's their choice. For me, for example, I don't really I don't support this. I mean, but they are free to do what they want. But the problem is Islam is homophobic, so we cannot. I mean, for me, it's weird. It's I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, something like when you have I mean, you have a very ugly thing and you are trying to have a workaround that will not work. To like, it's for me, it's a fake. It's not. We need to face it. We need to face it. Really, the religions, all religions, are homophobic and misogyn. So yeah, it's we don't. I mean, like also some people have something called Islamic feminism. For me, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So it's my opinion. But okay, they are free. They want to be Muslim and gay imam, and okay, they are free. But for me, it's not working. Yeah.
Yeah, but as you said, there are many paths to survive in confronting religion. And you said that Islam is homophobic, but the Bible is homophobic too.
Yes.
But now there are Christian churches who marry same-sex couples. So you see, the world can change. And
okay.
if Yasmin, if you want the contact of a gay imam, I have a friend in France who is a gay imam, and he is doing a good work for some people. Everybody would not agree, but for some people, I think he can help. So we can give you his email if
yeah, sure. That would be awesome to have a discussion, because I absolutely share the opinion of Shahinaz, and I have been called an Islamophobe, and it was awful. It was awful because, you know, obviously everyone has a different version of reality. Yeah, you can continue. Thank you.
Yasmin, how can you send us your email?
I'll write it on chat.
Okay.
Nicola,
Robert,
yeah.
can I say something regarding the intersectionality approach?
Yeah.
So what I understand from Yasmin, she's asking about the intersectionality in general, or specifically the part related to religion. But intersectionality in general is very important to our work, I think. Working with feminist movement, people with disability, people with color, different minority groups that have been facing the same oppression that we face. It's important to collaborate with each other, to have the same, not the same, but like having some common ground that we approach and voice, raising our voice about the oppression that we face. It's very important to do that. But regarding the part related to religion, I think it's a very important conversation to be open and discussed. And I think Islam, if we speak about Islam, which Islam we're speaking about, Islam is many versions. There is Salafi, there is Wahhabi, and there is also Sufi and Hanafi, whatever diversity in Islam, there is like a lot of I mean sectors, whatever, that speak about different approach, and they have the different opinion of homosexuality. I think that's we live in a country that's, I'm speaking about Egypt, or also MENA region in general. The majority are Muslims, and we have a lot of people who denying their sexuality because of their religion, and they live in hating themselves, or not accepting themselves, or denial for many years because of the religion. So I think we should tackle this issue and looking to the religion and understanding what is the roots that's bringing this up, and also There is a lot of schools that has been speaking about new Islam and new interpretation of Quran, and there is different ways to deal with this. So I think it's very important discussion we need to go through. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Nicola, do you want to say something at the end of our meeting?
Yes, I want to thank everyone who participated in the meeting, and thank you, Robert, for moderating it. And before we leave, I just wanted to remind that we have another webinar tomorrow about the situation of LGBTQI plus migrants. We talked a bit about it today, but tomorrow's will be only about it. And tomorrow's discussion and this one will be put online on our Facebook and website, so people can watch it again later.
Okay. To conclude, I leave the floor to Noor. Noor, I let you say the last words for our meeting.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you for having this great discussion about the situation in Egypt, and looking forward to have more collaboration and more platform to have such rich conversation. Thank you.
Okay, so have a good evening, and we have a lot of work to do again in the future, and I thank you very much for your participation to this meeting. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robert. Goodbye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.